Hello and welcome to this Automotive Design Planet interview with me, Michael Nash, and Marilia Biill, Head of Colour, Material and Finish Design at Kia. Thank you for joining me, Marilia. How are you?
Hi, Michael. I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Where are you joining us from today?
From South Korea.
Lovely. How's the weather?
Really good, actually. So we are finally going to a moment where we have more sunlight. The temperature is also better. So actually really good.
Lovely. That sounds great. So just for our listeners and readers and watchers, if you can give us a little bit of background on yourself, perhaps talk about your early childhood and maybe some memories that you kind of have when you knew you wanted to become a designer.
Right. Well, I think my story is mostly it's different from most of the automotive design people. I actually never dreamed about designing cars, so I didn't have this in mind. I think with me, it started much more with product design. So I was absolutely in love with the idea of creating things, not exactly cars. I was mostly wishing to design products that people would use, could be furniture, could be everyday products. And this was mainly when I was a teenager and started to think what I would do in the university and made plans. And when I was in the university, I was surrounded by people who simply loved cars, and their dream was to do car design, and they eventually became amazing car designers. And this is somehow how it started, because I learned from them. At that time, I not even knew anything about CMF design. And I was just observing all this amazing sketches and everything that they were talking about. And then one day, a friend of mine who was working for Volkswagen in Brazil, I'm from Brazil, he called me and said, "Hey, Marilia, there's a position open and it will for sure fit you well. It's about CMF." And this is where I kind of, okay. But to be honest, I not even knew much about CMF design. So I went to Volkswagen. I started there as a CMF designer, worked at Volkswagen for many, many years, then became a leader there. Had later then the opportunity to move to Germany and work for Porsche as a CMF design manager. Was also a great time, as I believe I was very lucky because it was the moment where we were doing the new 911 and the Taycan. So it's very, very special. Also many motorsport special projects, very cool. Also then worked for NIO, which is a totally different environment as a startup doing electric cars that has a design studio in Munich. And now I'm here in Korea, South Korea, working for Kia. I'm very glad to join this also a special moment for the brand, I believe, and very happy to be part of it, to contribute and to join the amazing team we have here.
Amazing. That's such a cool story. And I guess maybe it actually helped you a lot because your mind was maybe thinking outside of the car. You were thinking maybe about furniture and other sort of designs. Do you think that you kind of had maybe some fresh eyes and you kind of brought that in and that helped you in with your career essentially?
Yeah, maybe because and I guess for CMF designers this is maybe a bit more common. We have many designers that come from architecture or fashion industry from different backgrounds, and that helps a lot because we need that. We need to look to things in a very broad way, to be aware of. Actually, this fits to all the designers, but I think especially for us, as we need so much to be fulfilled by trends, by what is happening in the society, what is coming next. And that helps. I think not only my background, to have different backgrounds in the team is always very good, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And so did you study in Brazil then? Did you go to university in Brazil? Okay, cool. So you went from Brazil to Germany and then over to Korea. So did you, also working in those different brands, going from Volkswagen to NIO, which is Chinese owned, also a very different proposition in terms of cars and interior design compared to Volkswagen, and then to Kia again, which is this sort of, it has Korean roots and obviously Korean design at its core. And it's, the design language is very clearly based on culture and tradition. So how did you sort of jump from one to the next? Did it take a lot for you to get your sort of philosophy and your thinking in a sort of different pattern and a different way?
Yeah, it does. And this is what I actually like. I feel it is important to keep learning, from the cultural aspect, but also from, as you just mentioned, the brand identity, the brand values and mission, and how people work. As you can imagine, if I compare now the experience I had at Volkswagen, at Porsche, at NIO, and now at Kia, they're all so different. The way people do things, the way people think, the way the projects are organized, the values from each of those companies. And for me, it's really a privilege to think that I had the chance to have contact with those different environments, I've learned so much from the Brazilian, the German, the South Korean culture. And I think that helps me a lot today to understand a bit more from the markets, and maybe even more important, to listen to them. We have different studios all over the world, and when they talk about their experiences, I can see myself when I was, for example, working for Volkswagen and trying to express what we needed, to Germany, saying, "Hey, Brazil is different. We need this and that." So I think the more you get those experiences, the more you live those things, more open you are. So I'm very glad that I had the chance to be in those different environments, let's say. And of course, there are many challenges because you get used to certain things, you get used to certain behaviors or way of doing things. And when you change, you kind of need to learn everything again. And that's exciting, but also a big challenge.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You make me feel a little bit bad, Marilia, because I've never lived outside the UK. So I'm like, I should go and try more, I've traveled a lot, but I've never lived somewhere else. So, but there we go. So let's sort of get into the nitty gritty a little bit. Could you talk a little bit about the process behind what you do? Maybe we can start with some baby steps. What are the first kind of things that happen when you get a brief for a new model, perhaps? Where do you start?
Well, I believe we are the only area in the design department that really works from the early stage until the end. We are involved from the brainstorming phase, just open ideas, to start to create a vision of where we want to go, to start to find out where the need is and why we should do a product. So all those pre-development things we do, we are there, we join those discussions, we contribute as much as we can. But we also go to the end. We need to work on the implementation as well. So a CMF designer needs to be able to go all the way until the implementation with color matching adjustments, sometimes further development when something is not working, with the quality department, with refinement team. So it's a very long process for us. But the beginning itself is very open, actually. It's a big brainstorming of what we all believe we should do in many senses for the customer, for the company, for sustainability, for any kind of evolution we expect in our products. If you think about Kia in the last few years, in terms of the brand position, the brand mission and values. So there are a lot of things to discuss, let's say, in this early stage. And we contribute as much as we can as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a difficult job, to say the least. So when you're brainstorming at the start, then what does that look like? Do you have like a specific room in the studio where you have lots of different samples and you draw them in and you put them up on walls or put them up on, I don't know, maybe models of sort of IPs? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it can be in many ways. Of course, it's important to have this collection of thoughts, let's say, from the different design areas. Sometimes just conversations about the market, not only inside design. Of course, we have many related departments in the company that will bring more data or information for us. I believe when we are doing a new car, completely new, this process is a bit more free. So we really bring all the inputs we have in our minds. We try, of course, to bring a very powerful message and innovation for this new model. And of course, also to understand the needs from the market, where this car will be then placed. When it is a continuation, a facelift, for example, then we look a lot to what happened so far, how this car is doing, how was the perception, the take rates, is this color selling well or not, and if not, why not? Because sometimes the take rate is low, but it doesn't mean that the color is not well perceived. It's just a bold color, not for everyone, but it's an important color for the brand image for that car. We try to understand as well what went well from the past model and what we can do better, and how much we can improve. So I think it's a bit different when it's completely new, because then it's really like a big thing to define. And when it is a facelift, where you really need to make sure you improve that car, that you offer more, that you even correct things if something was not going so well.
Yeah, okay. So you spoke a little bit about working from, across every stage, really. Does that also mean that you work with pretty much I imagine it means you work with every department, right? You must work with like the marketing team to, be able to tell this story, and perhaps even maybe some of the engineers. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but if we think about EVs, and, the noise, vibration, harshness issue, perhaps you need to work with the engineers as well. Is this true?
Yeah, totally. I really cannot imagine a CMF designer that is not communicating all day long. We have so many partners inside and outside the company that a CMF designer has no chance if he or she is not really talking to a lot of people. Because we have, of course, if you imagine the amount of materials and colors and finishes we have in each car, and each of these materials, they come from different suppliers. So we have to communicate with all the suppliers. If you imagine that all those materials, they have to be tested. So we have to communicate with the people who will test those materials. As you said, marketing as well. We need to understand if there's any specific need or not. We have even sometimes to talk with different markets abroad. So, for example, if I have a specific car in India, they will have different opinions, different input to give to us. So it is basically a negotiation all the time. It is, of course, also about cost sometimes. So the CMF designers, they have a specific target for each version, for each project. So they need to be aware of that. So in this sense, it's quite complex, but also I believe quite nice for us because we learn from all these people. We build our project with them. So they contribute so much that it becomes a natural thing to do.
Yeah, wonderful. I can't imagine how good your communication skills need to be, and also as well probably your bargaining skills, because some departments might need or want something, and you guys are like, no, that's not going to work. So you have to have a trade-off, right? It must be so difficult.
Yeah.
So talking about cost. It's such an important topic right now with electrification coming in, and the digitalization of the cockpit, and costs are just seemingly rising all the time. And so there seems to be this question of trade-off: where are we saving money in the vehicle to make sure that the consumer isn't having to pay more and more and more for all this technology? Is that something that you guys have to consider too?
Yeah, a lot actually. Because of course, from the designer's perspective, we always want to offer more. So everything we know in terms of innovation, of quality, of design, appearance as well, we want to offer, and it is of course not that easy. We need to find a balance because the end price should be reasonable. So it's, and I feel this aspect here at Kia, it's really well done somehow, because we have discussions to really find this balance, to really push it and to have the best we can offer in the right price, with the right balance for the customer in the end. And what we try to do mostly is to find strategies to be able to apply what we want in a nice way, but without increasing the cost. And I think we have been successful in many models. We are quite happy with many achievements. But of course, it's not only about design, it's about safety as well. Sometimes it's about the final cost for our consumers. So it's a complex discussion, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's probably one of the areas where it must be most complex is to do with sustainability, right? Because it's such a big topic. I wonder how you guys are approaching that topic. We've seen quite a lot already in the interior in terms of, recycled plastics. And, there's whispers, and well, there's been talk for some time about using lots of innovative materials like mushroom spores and things like this, and recycled woods. What are your kind of directions on sustainability, and also how do you balance that trade-off between sustainable and cost effective?
Mm-hmm. I have to say Kia has been doing many efforts for that for many years, and I feel being inside, you see it is a very honest approach. There is a willingness to do good, to improve, and to offer everything as we can as soon as possible. And when looking into that, we felt the need to define a design sustainability strategy, with the main goal to really offer sustainability at scale in our products. As you know, sustainability is also important for the production, for the way we do business. But from our perspective, from designers, we felt we need to define how we do that. Because if we simply offer one solution here, another one there, then we don't have a real impact. And that's why we defined a strategy that we are very glad we managed to implement in the EV9. So EV9 is the first project that receives this strategy. And the first action of this strategy was to go leather-free. So we made a very extensive research, and we found out that leather is not the best solution for us as a mass production brand. And instead, we decided to use what we call bio-PU, which is a leather replacement that has corn extract inside. So it's an innovation, and it is as durable, as soft as leather. And the second big step is what we call the 10 must-have sustainable items. And we defined 10 solutions, 10 sustainable materials and colors that will be applied to all new Kia models. So it's a big, big step, as you can imagine, as we talked before when talking about costs. And our strategy there was, okay, let's first of all, we need to have real good impact. And the only way to do that is with scale. So it has to be in every single car. But doing it at scale allows us to give volume to our partners, to our suppliers. And this was a way for us to have a win-win situation. So for the supplier, they win because they have volume, so it's good for them. For us, it's good because then the price is not so high, and it's good for the customer and for the environment as the ultimate goal, because then in every single car we have those items, and then this allows us to have real good impact. So it was a long and difficult discussion, and I'm very glad we managed to implement. And as we just talked, with the help with many, many different departments, with the material team, engineering department, with our upper management that has been so committed to do that, in a very honest and powerful way. And this allowed us to implement it so quickly. So we are very glad with this step. We are now working very hard. My team is working in every single project to implement those items in all the new cars. So we are quite excited about it. And the third and big action is related to what you just said, what we call biofabrication. So for me, there's a material revolution happening, which is to use biocomponents, natural components, inside of what we do, or even to grow our own materials. So this is our dream, let's say, for CMF designers, and we are very happy that this is finally happening. And we are investing on it with really good partners, with startups, testing many things. We even have a partnership with Rhode Island University, where our designers are together with the students developing things inspired by nature. It is actually a quite exciting moment for us related to that.
Yeah, I think what Kia is doing in this field is really inspiring and amazing. I wonder as well, there must be a not so much a question mark, but maybe like a need for you guys to, as you're doing all this innovation, right, there must be a need for you guys to show the consumer that the materials are also durable and practical as well as sustainable, right?
Yeah, totally. This was first important for us to guarantee they work properly. So everything has to be fully tested in the same way as we tested leather in the past. We tested those new materials as well. And they all are absolutely durable. They have the same touch and feel as we expected, high quality. We had in the launching events for EV9, for example, we had those materials there to show the journalists. They could touch, they could see the back of the material, they could see how strong they are and the quality. The same for the fabrics. We use recycled PET bottles to do many materials nowadays. For example, for EV9, in each car, we can have up to 100 PET bottles inside, upcycled in the headliner, in the doors, in the seats, the floor. But when you look into those materials, you would never say there's a PET bottle recycled in these yarns. So the technology now is so advanced that the quality is just exactly in the way we always wanted, with the same softness, the same precision in the yarns. And this is really nice. We have, for example, in the top version, recycled fishing nets in the carpet. And it's just the carpet, you don't tell there's something different there. So imagine this process. You collect the fishing net from the ocean, you clean, you transform it into a yarn or a fiber, and you have then again a new nice carpet. So that's why I think it's really a revolution happening, that we finally can implement all those ideas into our cars, into mass production. And I really hope we all can do, I hope that not only Kia, but all the cars can have those items. Will be better for everyone.
Do you think there'll be a time where every single material used is recycled or recyclable inside the car?
I think so. I believe so. And even more than that, I hope we do more of biomaterials, using plant-based components. I think that's the main thing, because then you avoid all the process for recycling, which is also a bit difficult, right? So if we manage to recycle more and more, which is happening, it's amazing. Of course, we also, as human beings, we need to learn to discard or to use less things. But anyway, we have the need to recycle. But I hope we can also increase the amount of plant-based components we have. So today we have, for example, sugarcane in the dashboard. And this is just so cool, right? And it's also, I think, also very positive to have different components, because if we are doing mass production, you cannot rely on only one component, because then you have a mass production of this component, and that's of course not good. So we try to have different ones. So we have sugarcane, we have corn, we have natural oils, eucalyptus extract. So our wish is really to have a variety of those components that can be mixed, and also used together with recycled materials.
Yeah, it's amazing. Marilia, I wonder what your thoughts are on screens and screen domination. We see these concepts and actually production cars now with screens that span the whole width of the dash. I imagine some CMF designers might be thinking, "Leave my Surface alone. What are you doing?" But what are your thoughts on screens, and perhaps as well how other sort of digital aspects of the vehicle? We've seen lots of concepts with haptic surfaces, with digital tools underneath surfaces.
Well, I believe in something that we call soft tech. And that means technology should not be overwhelming, as it can be, right? So a car has a limited space, and you don't want everything to be there bothering you. You want technology, but you want as well this interior to be welcoming. You want this interior to be cozy and warm, and to give you a nice feeling as if you are in your home. And if you simply add all this technology, screens, buttons, or functions, I think nobody likes that, right? So this is not what we expect. So what we try to do is to add this softness to it. So when I say soft tech, of course, doesn't mean that we only use soft materials, but that the idea is to integrate technology in a way that, first of all, it is not overwhelming, that it is still intuitive, but that it is there without bothering you, without popping in your face. It is integrated into the surfaces. And luckily, the interior designers are also into it, so that helps a lot, because they also don't want their dashboard to be full of little things, right? They want it to be clean, they want to be nice and neat. So we have been working on many solutions to have hidden buttons with light, to have even textile in the IP, to have a garnish that can have a button behind. As you probably saw on EV9, in the front of the car, we have this hidden light. So this is just a design element with a lot of technology to make it happen, and you use it as you want. You can choose the pattern, you can choose to turn it on or not as an element, and it does not disturb the design of the front. So it's very clean, it's very precise. So in my point of view, we should welcome technology in this way, not simply add everything to the car. And I believe CMF designers can contribute to integrate and to make them feel nicer, let's say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there also seems to be maybe a push, not just from interior designers, but from consumers as well, right? We're also overloaded with our phones and social media, and there's been a few concepts over the past couple of years that are meant to be, like a digital detox concept, where there's no visible screens in the cabin. Is this something that you guys are considering as well?
Yeah, there are many studies and ways to do it, let's say, many possibilities. Of course, it's important to understand where people expectations, let's say, and they can be different from one market to another. We realize that technology and innovation is perceived in different ways. For example, in India, which is a country that we all know is totally into IT, and that they know everything. They love technology, and the way they perceive and they expect to have their screens is one thing. Maybe in Europe is a bit different, as people tend to be more connected to nature, into a calm environment, even though, of course, they also love technology. So we are looking to all of this and trying to find the next step, let's say. As we all know, we all first included the screen as much as we could, as it is practical, as it brings new possibilities, as it is, of course, nice to have a big screen. And there are next steps coming, let's say, of course. And we always try to really have, as I said, this welcoming feeling, also related to the screens.
Yeah, amazing. And what about, aside from like the digital side, what about the idea of space, right? Because that's also such an important aspect of the interior. And there always seems to be a battle with interior design, how to include more features, but also make the cabins appear more roomy somehow. That must be a trick of the eye, but also down to very clever and hard work from yourself and your team.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think for whoever is starting as a designer, it's just amazing to see. I think when you have more experience, you notice it maybe more. The influence colors and sometimes like small things can have on that. So of course we have the parameter and what the amount of space we have, and we can play with the shape and with the color inside any new car. And when together we work into those lines. If the line is more horizontal, or until where it goes, if it continues to the door, or maybe it is an island, so you feel that the IP is kind of floating. And maybe you play with the color breakup in a different way, that the IP is integrated to the door. It changes completely. So it can transform a narrow, small dashboard into something nice and wide. It can transform like a low space, low interior into something that feels sporty and embracing you. So I believe the lines and the way that the interior designers, they design these lines into the dashboard, into the doors, together with the color breakup, it's really a key for that, to the way in the end you feel about the car. If you look into different, even in the same car, we have the GT Line version. And the GT Line version has a dark interior with high contrast. It feels completely different to the other trim level. And this was the intention. If you want a sporty feel, of course, you don't want a big dashboard in front of you. So the dark color helps to create that. And there are many little things you can do to help in this sense.
Yeah, I love the GT line versions of Kias. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I guess, yeah, clever work on the CMF team. But yeah, that sort of trickery is to me, it's mind blowing. So speaking about people starting to get into the field of CMF, what maybe would be your advice for people looking to get into CMF and design, and maybe also perhaps if you were looking for a new person to join the team, what are the things that you look in for you need in their portfolio? What are you looking for?
Well, of course, portfolio is important because it tells you a lot about the person, the quality of the work, and so on. But from my perspective, the most important thing is the attitude. So when talking to this person, to find out not only what he or she thinks about design, but how this person will work every day, will look into the challenge that we have every day. I was watching the other day a very famous Brazilian professor called Cortella, and he was saying something that connects to this. He was saying we should always keep a positive dissatisfaction. In a way, not that you should be a sad person and always be dissatisfied. Of course, we should celebrate what we achieve and be happy with things we do. But as designers, I think we should always be looking for more, as much as we can. And the happy thing is that you can always do more. Of course, we have time limit, cost limit, but maybe in the next projects, and you are ready for it. So I believe as a student or as a young designer, and actually always, we need to keep that. We need to keep learning, to keep being curious and observing. I learned so much from the people surrounding me, from my team. They're so amazing, and I see what they're doing is every day you learn different things from the different teams. So if you are simply satisfied and you think it's always good enough and you achieved something and that's it, then you don't really keep learning, and you kind of stay where you are. So I feel this is the most important, not only for students, but for everybody, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a great quote. And I think I'm going to remember that positive dissatisfaction. It's going to stay with me, I think. So just to wrap up, Marilia, thank you so much again for spending the time with us. But just one final question. What are you looking forward to as a designer? What's sort of on the horizon that you can't wait to happen? Doesn't even have to be in the field of design, I guess. but maybe something inspirational. And maybe what are your goals for the next few years? Do you have anything that you really want to achieve?
I feel we have been talking a lot about sustainability for a long time, and that makes sense. I think we should continue to do that. But I hope we can now enter the stage where we talk more about regeneration. Because sustainability should be, we should have started from the beginning as human beings, right? We should have always developed sustainable things, but we didn't. So now we are like running, trying to achieve something. And I hope we come to a point where we have this baseline in a strong way, and that we manage to move to this regeneration phase where we not only design sustainable things, but that we contribute for nature to heal, because we all made too much damage, I think. And we all have this responsibility. And so I see the possibilities, and that's the good part of it. And for me, the big dream right now is to grow our own materials. Is really to work with nature in such a way that we can stop simply to add synthetic products, and to do more of the natural ones inside of our cars. I think that will be really amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Marilia, for joining me. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. And I know it's getting on for Friday evening. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, Michael. My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.